Hi, this is Jonathan Rosenhead, Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post of Parshas Terumah is going to discuss mindfulness. In this week's parsha, we have the pasuk of V'asu li mikdash v'shechanti b'socham, which means that the Bnei Yisrael should create a mishkan in order for Hashem to reside within it. And the Medrash relates that Moshe asked Hashem, he said, your Shechina is infinite. There's no limit and there's no boundary to your Shechina. So therefore, how can the Bnei Yisrael create a mishkan that can contain your Shechina? And Hashem said that indeed, in order for the Shechina to reside within the mishkan, it will have to go through a process of tzimtzum, of contraction. The Shechina will contract and therefore will be able to enter and be contained by the mishkan. And the Orach Chaim says that if the pasuk is trying to say that the Shechina should enter into the mishkan, it should say b'socho, in it, but it says b'socham, which means in you. And therefore, the Orach Chaim says that it means that the Shechina will actually go into each individual person in the Bnei Yisrael. That the process of tzimtzum and the process of creating this mishkan is actually creating an internal space for the Shechina to reside within each individual person. And I think this relates to the process and the teachings of mindfulness. Because by definition, mindfulness is paying attention to the present moment in a deliberate way, in a non-judgmental way. It's giving our attention to, it could be external stimuli, things that we can hear, or things that we can see, or perhaps it's an internal process where we give attention to physiological sensations, such as our breathing. And it teaches a person to be able to remain, to stay with these sensations, to not give any extra additional interpretation to what they're experiencing, but rather it's a process. Mindfulness is a process of being rather than doing, and this gives the person the skills to be able to focus in a deliberate way on what they're experiencing and to focus and give their attention to these sensations. And why is this important? How is this beneficial from a therapeutic point of view? So if somebody has experienced trauma, for example, or has anxiety or depression, they might have intrusive emotions and thoughts. They might be overrun by these thoughts that are going through their head. It's a stream of thoughts, or perhaps they are debilitated by the overriding negative emotions that they are experiencing. So through mindfulness, it teaches a person to not be overrun by these emotions or by these thoughts. It helps them to be able to give their attention to certain aspects. It's in a way, it's giving the person the strength, and it's developing a muscle of attention to allow these emotions just to be, to allow these thoughts just to be. And it doesn't have to. A person doesn't have to give too much attention to them, or to start focusing on them in a way that gives extra attention or negative interpretation to these emotions and thoughts. The process of mindfulness, as I said, is being rather than doing, and therefore by engaging in this process of mindfulness, it creates this space to contain the pain and the suffering and the emotional distress of these thoughts and these emotions. It contracts the pain and the suffering in a way that that it can be contained, and a person is able to manage them. And through this process of mindfulness, it helps them as a skill. It gives them the skills to be able to overcome and to be able to self-regulate and to be able to manage these emotions and these thoughts. And this can increase their mental health and their well-being. So therefore, I see mindfulness and this explanation of tzimtzum of the mishkan as being as creating this internal space, just as the mishkan is creating a religious space, obviously, a religious space. Mindfulness, in its roots, in its historical background, is based on Buddhist teachings. So we can say that mindfulness as a process is creating this spiritual space, an internal space within us to be able to contain the suffering and the emotional distress, and this can help to improve our mental health and our well-being. Have a great Shabbos and keep well.